Oh, we are exhausted.
I'm a little tired, yeah. It's been a heck of a full morning.
We've had a radio station full of people all morning. We were going to podcast much earlier. But
4 different interviews we did, right?
Yep, on 2 different stations, meaning I did 4, JP did 4. And now we're just tired, so please forgive us if we're a little slower. But for those of you that have never been on our channel before, we are the Podcasting Dead, and we talk about The Walking Dead. We like to do other things, too, but we do talk about The Walking Dead.
It comes up a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does tend to come up from time to time. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. What we're doing today is a Walking Dead What If, which is just a situation. We've got plenty of awesome listener-submitted Walking Dead What Ifs, and we're going to compile those into a list, and we're going to hammer out some videos on those. But right now, we're so exhausted that we don't even have the strength to lift up the phone to look in the comments section. So JP came up with a pretty good Walking Dead What If, and we're just going to explore that. But
if you will, just entertain the idea of going to a parallel universe where things are similar, but not quite.
I don't know what I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I don't know what the hell sound effect that was. I tried to do like a doo-doo-doo.
Yeah, I'm trying to go for like a Roger Sterling, kind of like a Twilight Zone opening. I don't know if you ever loved the Twilight Zone.
I love the Twilight Zone.
I remember it used to be a marathon of it, I guess, on Sci-Fi, like every New Year's Day or New Year's Eve or something. And I just watched enough Twilight Zone to get me through the whole year.
You also watched a lot of Twilight.
No, I've never seen those movies.
JP.
I ain't never seen them.
You wanted to podcast on them, and I told you that as much as as popular as I know that is, it's just not something I can get into.
You know good and well, I've never had a girlfriend, so I've never had any.
That's a lie.
To see Twilight.
You've said on other podcasts that you've had girl. I don't want to. You have a girlfriend right now.
You're talking about. My beard is itching. Nah, that ain't me, dog. I don't believe in a romance or relationship or love.
Yeah,
I believe in primal urges and lustful needs, and you satisfy them just like you satisfy having to exercise your bowels. Just a physical thing.
Your bowels.
Yeah, and sometimes they go hand in hand, but not always.
That's okay.
Was there a sound effect?
No, there was no sound effect.
Okay. I don't have headphones for the listeners, so.
So let's move on to the Walking Dead What If question of the day. I've got my boom fix for those that might have listened to our mail call podcast and knew that I was holding the mic. I don't feel as empowered today because the mic is not in my hand. It's back in the stand because our engineer came and got this fixed.
Right. You're not holding your big old metal corn dog today.
There you go. If you don't know what we're talking about, go back and watch mail call. Or podcast number 8. It's on the channel somewhere. But anyways, without further ado, I know that we've been BSing. JP, what's today's Walking Dead What If?
All right, so as I said, transport yourself to a world where you don't know what's going on because it's the What If universe. That's right. What if in the episode before Rick's final episode.
Spoiler warning, by the way.
So, yeah, spoiler. Did it happen on the episode before his last episode? What if, after they climbed up out of that pit and found the horde of walkers coming towards them and walking towards the construction camp where they were building the bridge, what if Rick went back to the camp to warn everyone, and Daryl led away the horde on his motorcycle?
Because things would have been so much different. Obviously, but for reasons that I wouldn't have even thought of until JP was pointing them out. Like, for one, Daryl's motorcycle probably wouldn't have bucked him off.
Yeah, you can't spook a motorcycle.
So Daryl would have probably been able to. Now, Daryl's original idea was to bring the bridge down, right?
Yeah, he wanted to explode the bridge.
He didn't want to explode the bridge. He thought the weight of the walkers would bring it down, which we found, unfortunately, it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
They built that bridge too damn good.
Too nice, yeah.
So the differences that we get out of this scenario is that obviously Rick would probably still be with the group, and Daryl would have probably been okay. You know what I mean? Like, Daryl's on that motorcycle, and Rick's horse getting spooked is kind of the root of his whole problem, and eventually led to him going away. But here we kind of come to a crossroads, because either way, where Rick ended up going was where Daryl wanted to go from the get-go. So if they would have done what Daryl wanted to do, Daryl would have led them probably to the bridge. It wouldn't have collapsed. So what do you think would have happened when that bridge didn't collapse for Daryl? Daryl is right where Rick is. He's just on his motorcycle and not bleeding profusely. He's seeing, snap, the weight of these walkers is not enough to bring down this bridge. So where do you think it would have went from there?
Well, at that point, I guess all, Maggie, Michonne, the whole group would have been there seeing him on the bridge just like they saw Rick.
Because Rick would have gotten back at this point and warned them.
Yes,
and they would have all came back.
I guess, had like their whole confederation there waiting on the horde. So that would have been the question. What are they going to do? I mean, I guess they knew that dynamite was there. They might have still tried to blow it up. I mean,
but then would they have just tried to maybe snipe it from a distance? Because that was kind of done by Rick as a snap decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He saw the dynamite. He was close. He shot it. Do you think they would have thought about the dynamite, or do you think
they would have had a little bit more time to plan what they were going to do? I mean, they wouldn't have seen Rick like practically up there dying, with a bunch of zombies right in front of him.
Right. Let's move to a parallel universe. Beside that parallel universe,
do
you think that maybe there's
a perpendicular universe? Okay.
Do you think maybe there's a universe where Rick because Rick told him not to bring down the bridge, right? Mm-hmm. Rick's like, no, we're not bringing down the bridge, blah, 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 like Daryl wanted, and they went their separate directions. And I love how Daryl's like, be safe, after him and Rick would just like fighting on them.
Right.
Be safe. Which we know they're bros, but I'm just saying. Maybe Rick convinced Daryl not to take him to the bridge. Do you think that he would have been able to have lead him away and there not been a bridge
He definitely,
situation?
I mean, I don't see why he wouldn't have. He wouldn't have got bucked unless there were, I mean, I guess it's possible he could have like blown a tire and ended up still injured and staggering around. I wish there was a parallel universe where Rick had a four-wheeler instead of a horse.
Yeah.
I think he'd have been all right then.
Yeah, that stupid horse, man. Yeah. I wanted that horse's head on a spike by the end of that episode. Stop throwing my boy on the ground. But, so I think we can agree that if any scenario where Daryl led the herd instead of Rick, which Daryl has experience in leading herds of zombies, that's not something that, that Rick would still be there, front and center. And it would change the whole landscape of The Walking Dead.
I think that's a rational conclusion.
But are there any... Well, I guess the Rick thing is pretty big. I'll say, what big repercussions would come of that?
Well...
Of still having Rick around. Maybe the communities would still be at peace.
Yeah, I think the communities would definitely be communicating and cooperating. The sanctuary wouldn't have fallen.
Do you think the sanctuary would have stayed afloat under Rick's?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So Carol wouldn't have had to incinerate those people alive.
Do you think that they would have eventually had a falling? They were on their way out, though. They were fighting. Even with Rick's leadership, it was kind of Rick's trying to force them to all get along that was kind of causing some of the problems.
I think he could have kept the peace, but I think Oceanside would have definitely had to answer for some some sins.
Yeah.
I mean, in this situation, Oceanside's really the villains of the story. I mean, they've got a legitimate beef. Don't get me wrong, but
they're justified, but they are still breaking Rick's law more or less.
And I mean, we've covered this before. I mean, after the war, they should have had like a war crimes tribunal.
Oh, absolutely.
And certain people should have been held accountable, like not just Negan. I mean, they cut the head off the snake, but he's more of like a lizard.
Snakes can still bite even after they die.
That's true.
So,
I think of Negan and the Saviors more like a lizard, where like the tail and the appendages can grow back.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense or not.
It doesn't, but I like that you're trying.
Yeah, because lizards can do that, man. We learned that from Spider-Man.
They do, yeah. I learned that in real life watching cats pull the tails off lizards, and then that tail just.
Yeah, but I never saw like the same lizard. Like I never had a lizard at home and watched it regrow the tail.
Yeah, I remember seeing some that would come in like on the porch. Like you would see like the cat would take the tail, and you'd see it over a period of time, and then all of a sudden either it was a different lizard or that lizard had grown its tail back.
Yeah, all them lizards be looking alike.
They do, but so. I do agree 100% that absolutely they should have had some kind of war trials for like the generals, kind of like in World War II, where they put a bunch of Nazi, leaders on trial. But I don't know, because like I said, it was kind of Rick. I'm not. They would have had problems regardless, but Rick was they didn't like each other, and Rick was putting them in front of each other, as opposed to maybe just letting them go their own separate ways, and maybe they would fall, but they wouldn't be around each other for the beef. But then again, I don't know. That's what's so great about these discussions, because then they might have had a straight up another war, because if the Saviors would have just straight fallen without Rick and them's help keeping them afloat, they might have, even though they wouldn't have been around each other to have these beefs. They probably would have attacked trying to get supplies and stuff at some point anyways.
I'm telling you, if I was one of Negan's lieutenants after he fell, I would have been just like one of those Nazis after World War II. I would have fled to Argentina.
That's so you would have left the sanctuary and literally went to Argentina, or is there a place that you're using?
Yes, I would have went to Argentina or possibly Antarctica, because we know the Nazis had a foothold there, and a lot of people think Adolf's still chilling in Antarctica.
Adolf's
we may never
dead.
know.
I think that he definitely escaped from World War II. I think that he had a bad. We won't get into a long conspiracy theory,
but
Hitler was so. No, Hitler was. I mean, you don't get. Hitler was a monster. He was a bastard, a terrible sumbitch. But at the same time, Hitler was also a smart guy. You don't get to that point and not have a backup plan. I mean, you got to know that there is a chance that you will always fail, and for that you have. So yeah, I know. I think he went to Argentina. I don't think he went to. I don't know about the Antarctica thing, but I've read. What was that? Grey Wolf. It was a book, and it's about Hitler and how he went to Argentina and lived out and died there as an old man.
I'm telling you, brother, do some research on the Nazis in Antarctica. Look into it.
Well, that's why we have a conspiracy. I don't want to call it a conspiracy podcast, but we have a seeking podcast. We're going to explore,
and we're going to look into alternative views on.
Why
history.
do you find conspiracy to be such an offensive term? I would just call it a conspiracy podcast.
Because it's lumped in there with, loonies and all this.
Jesse Ventura.
It's just been made I'm a fan of Jesse Ventura. We don't agree on everything, but no, he's a nice guy.
He's a douchebag.
He lives in are you talking about that?
No, I'm not going to say I didn't used to watch his show. I mean, his show definitely had some interesting stuff on it, but
you talking about his beef with the American Sniper guy? Is that what made you not like him?
Nah, I mean, it's just a couple of things, but that's definitely one of them.
He was from what I understand, he was a good governor of Minnesota. He was a libertarian.
I've never been to Minnesota.
Or was he Green Party? He was one of those independent parties. I can't remember which.
He was a wrestler.
He was a wrestler. Nothing prepares you for politics like dealing with Vince McMahon.
But anyway,
getting back to The Walking Dead.
But I'm excited because we can explore that. We can have one. I want you to. I've never heard much about the Nazis in Antarctica, so I think I'm looking forward to maybe you making that, because for those of you that have listened for a long time, and if you didn't listen to yesterday's podcast, we're going to actually record it the first weekend in January. We're going to start JP doesn't like this term, but a conspiracy podcast.
I'm going to come up with a good name for it.
JP is a truth seeker. See how I did that instead of calling you conspiracy therapist? JP is a truth seeker, and he loves to look at alternate possibilities for the way things are, we'll say, right? Am I doing okay?
Absolutely. I mean, and there's a lot out there, man, that because people don't like questioning the established consensus on a lot of things.
They like to be comfortable with what they know.
Right. I mean, people forget that. I mean, science is a very, political sort of thing. I mean, there's fake science just like there's fake news, and the same with history. I mean, history's written by the winners. There's a lot of people who question the official narrative when it comes to World War II. I mean,
so that's why we have JP. The good thing is, and I can tell you this, why I'm looking so forward. Number one, JP's taking the lead on this one. JP is going to be the guy that brings you in and steers the conversation. It's going to be, I'm super excited. It's going to be so fun to sit back and essentially be, just listening and learning and probably debating with JP. But what I like is I can promise you from all the years I've known JP, the one thing JP's not going to come on there and try to necessarily convince you of anything. We're just going to discuss the possibility and the evidence, right? You're not on there to change their mind. You're there just to have a discussion about. I'm not an evangelist when it comes to these things, and I'm not studied enough to even I'm not an expert in any of these fields. I enjoy investigating and learning and discussing. And I am very open-minded to a lot of these ideas. That much I can tell you. We'll probably do some live ones, too, because it'd be great to get some feedback and some thoughts and people that might know more about this. But so that'll be coming really soon. But anyways, back to The Walking Dead. We get sidetracked. If you're new to our podcast and you wanted to hear The Walking Dead and nothing but The Walking Dead, sorry, sometimes we get off track. But so I mean, either way, we can agree that probably everything would have been better had Daryl have just led the zombies off instead of Rick. But that's why. But if Rick wouldn't have led the zombies away, he wouldn't be the Rick that we love. Rick is a hero. He throws himself in harm's way nonstop to try to help other people. He never wants someone else to have to do it. He always is the guy that wants to save everyone. That's what we love about Rick.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if Rick and Daryl could have just been on the same page like they have been in previous seasons, things would have went a lot better. You know, I mean, if they had been, well, you know, we got to take them to the bridge. So one of us has got to lead. One of us has got to go warn everyone else.
Right.
What are we going to do? And hopefully they would have been like, well, a horse doesn't do as good with zombies as a motorcycle. So
that's true.
You know.
But so leave us your thoughts in the comments section. What if Daryl would have led? There's a lot of you got to think, man. Like, we're doing this in the moment. There's a million other things that we could think about if we actually stopped and thought back on this. Hindsight 2020. So if there's something that you think of that we didn't think of, like some point, please throw it in the comments section. We'd love to be able to go, oh wow, we didn't even think of that. You know.
There's a lot of variables to consider.
It is. But so we will see you sometime next week. Now, I don't know, it snowed last week, which hindered us from podcasting often. This week, it's just been crazy busy. But next week is Christmas. I think maybe by Wednesday or Thursday, we'll definitely have something out there. But Monday and Tuesday, probably not going to do much podcasting. Maybe I'll come live from the man cave to say Merry Christmas. But we'll see. But either way, hit that subscribe button for more discussion. We will catch you next week. We love you to pieces. I'm Justin.
And I'm JP.
And we're the Podcasting Dead.